All right, it is time. It's finally here. I am ready to film a video about my sourdough bread. Now, I say my sourdough bread, but really, sourdough's been around for a long time, and I actually learned from a friend in the neighborhood who learned from someone on Instagram called Charity Lighton, and she is a sourdough genius. So if you want to refer to any of her stuff, she is always posting recipes and has even highlight bubbles in her Instagram that walk you through all of this. That's super helpful. So she's awesome. Make sure you follow her. And this is her recipe, and it is the best one I have ever tasted, and I've had several people tell me it is the best. This is, in my opinion, the best bread in the whole world. So first of all, I'm going to go through a list of ingredients that you're going to need, and then I'll go through a list of tools that you will need that will make it a lot easier. Of course, you don't have to have every single one of these tools, but it's going to make it so much easier. So the ingredients for this bread are very simple. First, you'll need a sourdough start, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on and give you more information about that, but you'll need a sourdough start. You're going to need salt. Any kind of salt will do. I usually use Redmond salt, but I ran out, so now I'm just using this salt I got from Costco. It's like a pink Himalayan salt, but any salt will work. And then you'll need regular flour, all-purpose flour, and then a bread flour. So that's it, and some water. That's all it's in this bread. So there's no sugar, there's no yeast. It's all natural, fermented bacteria that causes it to rise, and you can tell it has the most amazing crust, and the inside is just the perfect fluffy texture. This is the best bread in the world. I promise you. You can't prove me wrong on this one. So now I'm going to go over the tools, but before I do that, I want to tell you about something that's super exciting because it is the first thing that Davey and I have ever developed or put together on our own, and we're offering it for sale for you guys. So we're super excited about this. This is our April and Davey Fine Good and Everything bread proofing basket set. So what comes in the set is going to be these 3 tools, which are super, super helpful for all bread making, but especially for this sourdough. So it comes with a bread lane, which is what I use to kind of carve the designs. I'll use this in another, I'm going to show you guys some other breads that I do, because I'm going to make some more tonight because we eat through this so fast. I usually do 2 at a time. But I use this to carve in the designs, and this time I did a box on the top, but I didn't quite go deep enough on these 2 sides, so it only carved out those. So next time I'm going to go a little bit deeper, but it is amazing, and it's a great tool to have. You can make beautiful, decorative designs in it. So that's something that I use every time I make my bread. Okay, so the other thing that we have in the kit is this scraper. I'm not even sure the exact technical name for it, but I call it a scraper. And I use this every single day. I actually talk about it later on in the video where I'm going to be scraping the flour together, and if you're doing a double batch, you use it to cut the bread. I use it for my breadsticks, all the things. It is an awesome tool to have in the kitchen. If you're baking, you're going to be using this all the time. And then this thing is the proofing basket. So it's super cool. What I used it for is to get this pretty circular design in the bread. You can see in the top of it. And I did a little bit too much flour on the top, so it's usually more defined, but I'm still perfecting the art of the basket because I just got the basket, guys, and I've only used it a couple times, but it's so much fun. And I'm gonna do another one tonight and show you in the video tomorrow. So, but I love this, and I just spray it with a little bit of water and then dust it with flour, and then I let the rise happen for the second rise in the bowl. So I show all that later on in the video, but these are so fun to have, and we're super excited because we've never had anything to sell, and we've never, it was scary because we had to learn all these new things. We were talking to people in China and developing all making the box, which has my giant face on it, and it's just super exciting. So I hope you guys are excited as we are. We're gonna have a link in the description for the kit so that you can get the bread proofing bowl, the lane, and the scraper all together in that kit. So check that out, and then I'm gonna move on. So then the other things you're going to absolutely need is a food scale. I just got this one off of Amazon. The food scale is how you measure all the ingredients. So after that, you'll need a good bowl. Now, you need to make sure it's not too big and not too small. It needs to be a bowl the way I usually make sure it's big enough, I've like gotten used to it, but it's nice because you can take this bowl and stick it inside, and if it is about the same round but a little bit deeper, then it's like the perfect size in my opinion. Unless you're making a double batch, then you'll need a little bit bigger bowl because the dough has to double in size. So this is like my perfect size bowl. Can't remember how big it is, but anyway, you can kind of see this is a 9-inch bread bowl or bread proofing bowl, and so it's about a 9-inch bowl, but it's a little bit deeper than this. So that's how you can kind of judge. And I found for one loaf, that is my very favorite bowl because it just puffs right up to almost the top of it on the first rise, and then the second rise, it puffs right to the top of this bowl, so it's perfect. The other thing you're gonna need is either a dough hook or a mixer. I prefer using the dough hook. This is the Food Nanny one. It is the best one. It has the metal that goes all the way through. It will last you forever. And the other ones just break. So don't even bother with the other ones. Go ahead and get the Food Nanny one. That's the best one. If you don't have one of these, you can just use a wooden spoon, but it's just a little bit harder to mix. And like I said, you can use a bread mixer or a bread maker, whatever. It needs for about 5 minutes. But I just think this is the most accurate for me to just get it done quick, and I dirty the least amount of bowls because it's just like what I'm mixing it in when I'm letting it rise in. So it's just like these 3 things I pull out at night, and I'm going to show you all the steps in this video. And so I think, and then the last thing you'll need is a Dutch oven and some parchment paper. This is what the bread actually bakes in for the majority of the time, and it just gives it that really crispy outside. You can hear it. It's amazing, you guys. It is, seriously, you're gonna just die when you taste this bread. This size, I found the very best size for the loaf that we're doing is like 4.5 or 4.3 liters. If your crock pot is too big, I have another one that's a little bit bigger, and I've noticed that I'll do 2 loaves at a time, and every time I use the bigger one, it's just a little bit flatter because it kind of settles on that second rise into the Dutch oven a little bit. So the Dutch oven bottom is a little bit bigger, so it kind of like stays wider and flatter, and I like it to kind of puff up. So the 4.5 or 4.3 liter crock or Dutch oven is the best one. So get one of those. And so yeah, and I've also used just a pan. Like if you don't have one of these, I have like a Costco pan that doesn't have any plastic on it that has a lid, and that has worked too, but you definitely need some kind of a pot that it can go in the oven. So, and that's it. I think I've showed you all of the things you need. I like to have a little bowl just to have the extra flour when I'm kneading it out, but that's it. So if you have these tools, if you have flour, salt, and a start, you are ready to rock. So let's get on to the video. Okay, so let's make our bread. The first thing you're gonna do is you're going to make sure your scale is set to grams, and then you're going to place your bowl on it, and then you're gonna hit tare, and that's going to zero out your scale. So I'm gonna take my own advice here. I'm on grams, it's at 0. So now the first thing I add is the start. So you want to do 150 grams of the start. Now you can also double this recipe and do 300 grams of start if you wanted to make 2 loaves at the same time, which that's usually what I do. But today I'm just going to be making the 1 loaf. And I also have 2 jars of start because I usually make 2 loaves, and I don't want to run out of my start because you need to have at least 1/4 of a cup in there to feed it and build it up again. I like having about 1/2 of a cup in there so that I can make bread every single day. So every once in a while I will have to like take a day off and just feed it to build it up a little bit, especially if I use it for pizzas or pancakes or something else. So here we go. We're just going to dump 150 grams. That's 120. I'm going to take a little bit more from this other one just so that they're a little bit more even. Okay. And if you, now it's okay if you get too much in there. You just need to scoop it out, put it back in your jar. Wash my hand with this. And now I always feed my start at this point because I like making my bread when my start's hungry. I just feel like it rises faster and easier because it's nice and hungry, but you'll see that my start's a little bit runny, so it's hungry. I need to feed it. So, and you really should be feeding your start. I feed it about 1/4 of a cup of flour and 1/4 a cup of water when I feed it. But if you have a lot of start or a really big jar, you'll obviously need to be feeding it more. Otherwise, you'll end up with a really runny start that has like a thin film on the top. And that's just, it's like too hungry. You're not feeding it enough flour and water. So a good rule of thumb is a thick pancake batter. And if you start to go more off of the texture and the consistency, you'll be more successful than if you're just like, oh, I feed it 1/4 of a cup of water and flour every day. But you can use that as a general guide to do. So I just dump the flour, then 1/4 of a cup of the water. And it's not hot water, it's just kind of room temperature. And then a lot of people say not to mix your start with anything metal because stainless steel is antibacterial and you have bacteria in this. It's a good bacteria, it's healthy for your gut, it's a fermented food. But I've also used a metal bowl to let it rise and metal fork to stir it, and it worked out just fine. So I really don't know that I believe that. But if you want to be safe, better safe than sorry, use wooden or plastic to stir your start in. And you don't have to stir it too much. You don't have to get all the lumps out, just like that. And then I leave my lids on really loose because it needs to breathe, because it will expand. This will actually rise all the way to the top of the jar and then fall again by tomorrow when I feed it again. Now I'm going to talk about start for just a second because I know a lot of you might be like, how do you get a start? How do you make a start? It's not complicated, but it is time consuming. If you don't have a start and you don't know anyone that has a start that you can get, like, the easiest way to get a start is if you know someone that's like, hey, I have some extra start. They pour some in a jar and give it to you and you just start feeding it. That's how I got mine. And I would strongly suggest that because it's so much easier. And because my start was given to me from a friend who had been doing it for a few years and now I've been doing it for a few years, it's kind of cool because I'm like, that start is several years old and my sourdough is so delicious. I'm telling you, you cannot buy sourdough from anywhere that is this delicious. It's the best bread ever. But if you do want to learn how to make a start, there are a lot of tutorials online. My suggestion would be to follow A Vibrant Life, and she's on Instagram, and she's actually where the friend that taught me how to do sourdough learned sourdough. So I follow her and she is always sharing amazing recipes. And this is for sure, I've tried a lot of sourdough breads. This is the best tasting sourdough bread in the world, and I feel confident in saying that because I've had exchange students from all over the world and they said this is the best bread I've ever tasted. Hands down, I promise you guys. So this is the recipe, and it is like the most healing, amazing bread in the world. So check it out. 150 grams, that's what we're at right now of the start. The next step is your salt. Now you really can use any salt for this. I use Redmond's normally, but I ran out, and so I'm just using this Himalayan pink salt that I got from Costco. And you're gonna wanna do 10 grams. So I just kind of pour it in my palm like so until it looks like a little mountain, and I dump it. That was 9 grams. Like, I'm pretty close. You'll get better at this as you go, and that's 10. So 10 grams of salt, and then the next thing is 300 grams of room temperature water. And this is my little trick that I found. It works so good. I just grab a coffee mug and fill it all the way full, and it's almost exact every time. Check it out. All right, and don't forget to be zeroing out your scale every time you add. So I just added the salt. I'm gonna zero it out again. Now it's time for the 300 grams of water and just a standard coffee mug, you guys. Check it out. I can almost pour all of it. And then just at the end, I just 300. I have a teeny bit more in here. It's maybe like 2 tablespoons worth. I can just dump that. And if you get too much in there, it's no big deal. Take your measuring cup, scoop it out until it's at 300. You do want to be exact with the recipe. I've been off by like 1 or 2 grams. That's not a big deal, but you want to have it as close as possible. So now I'm going to zero it out again. And now we're almost done, you guys. This is the easiest recipe because there's only 3 ingredients. It is starch, water, salt, well, and flour. So I guess there's 4 ingredients if you count the water. 4 ingredients for this bread. It is so yummy. And I love that you're not using 1,000 measuring cups because, and you don't have to find a certain size measuring cups because it's all done off of weight. So now I have all-purpose flour here. You can use any all-purpose flour, but I've been buying the big Costco bags because I've been going through 50-pound bags of flour because I'm making bread every day. And I never thought that I'd be going through 50-pound bags of flour like crazy, but I am. So I'm just gonna dump 200 grams of all-purpose flour in my mixture. There you go, 200. And then I'm gonna do 250 of bread flour. This is also one that I've been getting from Costco. And so the total will be 450 of your flour if you don't wanna zero out your scale and you wanna just keep going. That's usually what I do. I just add all the flour at once till it gets to 450 grams. It's there. Okay. I need to refill my little thing. Okay, 450 grams. So now, the next step is you just mix it. Now you can do this in a KitchenAid, you can do this by hand, a bread mixer, like whatever. I find the very fastest and best way and the least amount of dirty dishes for me is just to do a bowl, and then I use this dough hook. And this dough hook is, in my opinion, the only dough hook worth spending money on. It's from the Food Nanny. Lizzie actually gave me this one. Guys, I'm telling you, the other ones will just break. Spend the money on this one. It's not even that much more expensive than the cheap ones. It's almost the same price. It's just maybe like $7 more. But this one will last you forever. It's a lifetime heavy duty solid product. The metal for this goes all the way through. So that's where you want to get it, the Food Nanny. And what I do is I just stir it up like this until it starts to stick together. And this is going to be a very sticky dough. So you might think, oh, it's too sticky, it's not ever gonna work, but then you know you're doing it right if it's sticky. You see how it's kind of starting to form a dough ball. And I need this for like 5 minutes or until there's no more dry spots. And then I do this little thing where I kind of pick it up and move it to the middle to get it into a ball. And then sometimes I just go crazy. It's a little bit of a workout, but I'm telling you, I love doing it by hand. I don't know. It's just my preference. So I just kind of roll it and knead it with the dough hook. And if you don't have a dough hook, I've used just a wooden spoon before and it works fine. So you really can do that too. So I just finished mixing the bread and now I have it, looks like this. It's really sticky. The next step is called pull and turn. So you're gonna wanna do this at least 2 times. Professional bread makers say to do it 4 times within an hour, so every 15 minutes. But I personally have not found any reason why 2 times isn't sufficient. My bread turns out great, it tastes delicious, and I can go to bed without having to stay up a whole extra hour because I do this at night. Like I said, it's a 2-step process. The first step is letting the dough rise, or mixing it and letting the dough rise for 6 to 8 hours. And the second section of the process is shaping it into a dough ball and letting it rise for the second rise for 2 to 3 hours. So I like to sleep while my bread rises, but I've also made it in the morning. Like today, I'm making it in the morning. And if you make it early enough in the morning, it is like the perfect timing to toss it in the oven while you're making some soup or dinner or whatever, and then you have like fresh, hot out of the oven sourdough for dinner, guys. It's amazing. So I do both really, but most common is for me to do it at night, let it rise, and then do it in the morning. So the next step is you want to do the pull and turn. You get your hand wet. I just turn on my sink and I dip my hand in it, and then you're gonna reach into the bowl and grab the dough and just kind of like pull and turn, pull and turn. If it starts to stick to your hand, just get a little bit more water on there. And the first one you do is a little bit hard because the dough is not as elastic. It's kind of like easy to break apart. So you just go one time around like that. And then I stick the lid on it. And I go and I brush my teeth and I wash my face at night. Or if you were doing it in the morning, then you would just set a timer, because you'd probably forget. If you're like me, you have kids running around and it's like, I'm never gonna remember that I just made bread. And that has happened before, I've forgotten about it. So the best thing to do, set a timer or like get into a routine like I am. I usually do the one pull and turn, wash my face, brush my teeth, but you wanna wait at least like 10, 15 minutes. After that 10, 15 minutes, I'm gonna show you what it looks like when you do the second pull and turn, because it's amazing. The consistency changes in the bread a lot because that bacteria in the starts to break down some of that gluten in the flour, and it just starts to get really elastic. So I'll get back to you in 15 minutes. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes. It's ready for the second pull and turn. So I'm gonna turn on my water, get my hand wet, and you're gonna notice a difference here, especially if you can feel it with your own hands. Look how stretchy it is. You just go around one time, stretch it out, fold it over. It's kind of getting some air bubbles in there, and it's really smooth and it's beautiful. Okay, so now that's it. So now it's time to go to bed, or if you're doing it in the morning time, then you just set a timer, because I'm telling you, you will forget about it. I don't forget about it if I do it before I go to bed, but in the daytime it gets crazy and sometimes I forget about it. But I usually I have a trick, you guys. In the summertime, I don't need to do this because the house stays pretty warm. But in the wintertime, like it is now, the house is kind of chilly and drafty. So I have this cupboard that has a heating vent that comes out right here by the floor, and it just like blows the hot air through the house. And sometimes it's underneath your kitchen sink. Like usually, you'll know the cupboard I'm talking about, the one that has like a heating vent by it. You don't want it to get too hot, but if it's like a nice, cozy, warm place, that's a great place to stick your bread. The only warning I will give you if you do that is that it rises faster if you do that. So instead of 8 hours, you might be doing more of a 6-hour raise. So check it at 6 hours. It should double in size, and I'll show you what that looks like once it's done. I'm gonna put it in the warm place for 6 hours, and then I'll check it, and if it has risen enough, which will be about double, I will show you. But if it takes 8 hours, that's fine too. You can leave it out on the counter just like that for 8 hours. But I find it's faster to just have a little bit cozier. So I stick it in this cupboard. And I set a timer for 6 hours. Okay, so it's been 5.5 hours. I checked my bread and you can see it's definitely doubled in size. So it's time to do the second rise. So this is where we bring our bread proofing bowl in. Now I've done different ways. This is just one that's really pretty to have like the spirally design on. And I found ways to do it more effective. If you just throw the sourdough bread in there, because it's really sticky, it will stick to all of the wood and it will just be a huge mess. So this is what I do. I take a mister spray bottle. You can just use a regular spray bottle if you want to. And I kind of mist the inside of the bowl. And then when it's, I make sure I get all of it. Then when it's a little bit wet, I don't want to use the word moist because we all know that's a no-no word, but I mean, when it's moist, I take flour and I just dust it all over inside. And you want to get it nice and covered, but not too much, because if you get too much, the design doesn't come out as good, and if you don't get enough, it sticks. So you just want to make sure it looks like that. You have to add a little bit more, that's fine, shake it around. And then it's time, now my bowl's ready, it's time to make the dough into they call it a I don't know, what is it called? A ball? Anyway, it's time to make your dough into a ball. And I just lay flour out on the surface. Sometimes I even sprinkle a little bit on there. But what you do is you just kind of scrape it out of the bowl onto your floured surface. Like so. And now we're going to try to make a tight gluten skin. So all you're gonna do, you're not really kneading, you're kind of just folding and tucking. And you're just waiting until it gets a little bit tight. That flour is incorporating a little bit, but you're not really like trying to squash the bubbles out. You're being really gentle and you're just kind of folding around. When it's not sticky anymore, I flip it and then I start tucking it with my hands like this. You guys can see that it's starting to get this gluten skin on the top. It's nice and tight. And now it's time to put it into the proofing bowl. So we're going to just plop it upside down, and now it's going to rise in this bowl for 2 to 3 hours. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to show you using the liner. So I just kind of like put some flour on the bottom of it in case it does rise a little bit more, that it won't stick to it. But some people use the liner inside of the bread proofing bowl. But I want the design from the wood to be on there, so. Okay, it's ready to go stick in the warm spot to rise. All right, so as far as this tool goes, I love this tool. I misuse it a little bit, I think, but it's one of my favorite kitchen tools now. I use it almost every single day. When I double my recipe, it comes in handy, and it's like what it's used for is to cut the dough in half, so that at this point is when you would separate your dough into the 2 sections and let them rise separately. So normally what I would do is I would do one in my proofing bowl, and then I would do the other one just regular, and I'd stick it straight into the Dutch oven to rise for the second rise. So yeah, I would use this to cut the dough in half, and then this is the little trick I learned with this that I really love. I make sure my counter's super clean before I put my dough on it, because obviously I want to reuse this little bit of flour right here when we do the design on the top of the bread. So what I've been doing is I've been scraping this into my little bowl of flour and then saving it for the 2 hours for when I need to do my bread. The other thing I've been doing with this is, it's kind of misusing it, but it's amazing for this, is scraping off my countertops when I'm cleaning. I even taught the kids to do this because sometimes there gets little chunks of like food and stuck on the grime. And this just scrapes it right off, and they just scrape it right into the seams here. And it is so useful, and I actually use it before I make my bread just to make sure there aren't any like little hairs or particles or anything on the countertop. And then I wipe it and dry it, and then I put my flour on and knead it out. But this little tool is awesome, and I use it for like when I do breadsticks, pizza doughs, anytime I'm doing with bread, or anytime I'm cleaning my counter. So this tool you will love. And this one, it is the most simple tool. It's just a razor blade on a stick, guys, but it makes all the difference when you're designing your bread. It's so much fun. I'm gonna show you some cool designs that we can do with it. Davey just told me how much anxiety my sleeves are giving him, so I'm gonna take this off because he's like, it's dragging in the flour. It's true. I can't do dishes or cook with this thing, so I don't know why I decided to wear it today, but I love it. But I'm taking it off, and I'm sorry for all you OCD people out there that were dying watching me scrape the flour with my sleeves dragging in it. All right, it is time to check our bread. It's been 2 hours. Look, perfect. It's right to the top. It looks great. Now here's the moment of truth. Hold your breath. You just dump it in. It worked. Look at this. It's beautiful. Look how pretty. So onto a parchment paper. Okay, and then I take this and I just score. And the fun thing to do with this one is just kind of a box on the top, and it will kind of like puff up that box. So the parchment paper, I crumble it up the first time and I lay it in there, and then you can use your parchment paper over and over and over again in your pot until it gets like brittle and breaks. But I just keep using it, and I feel like it doesn't cause me any problems. So now all I do is put the lid on, and I'm gonna bake this in a preheated oven. So the oven you preheat to 500 degrees. The reason why you do that is because There are other recipes out there that will tell you to put the Dutch oven in the oven and like preheat the Dutch oven and take it out, and then like you're trying to take this like scalding hot pot and like dump the bread into it, and it just is a mess and it's unnecessary really. So what you're doing is you're preheating the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you, right as you put the bread in, you drop it down to 420, and it's extra hot in there, and this cast iron will just suck up that heat really quickly and bring it back down to 420, but then it heats the pan up enough too. So it takes out that extra hassle. So that's what we've been doing, and then you bake it for 45 minutes at 420, and then I usually take it out of the pot for the last 3 to 5 minutes just to let it crisp up and kind of brown, and it's so beautiful. I'm so excited for you guys to see it. Okay, as you can see, it's preheated at 500 degrees. Just gonna take this baby. And normally, like I said, I do 2 at a time because the most expensive part about making this bread is heating up the oven. So I lowered the temperature to 420, and then I set a timer for 45 minutes. There you go. Best sound in the world. Look at that beauty. Oh my gosh. I could have dug into the edges a little bit more. You can see how this side opens right up. Look how beautiful that is. Davey, look at my bread. 5 more minutes. So that's it, you guys. You will have so much fun making this delicious bread for your family, for your friends. I'm telling you, this is bread that is healing. If you bring someone that's having a rough time, this bread, it changes everything. I promise you, it's worked for me. It's worked for other people. It is like, there's so much love that goes into sourdough. I know it might seem like an overwhelming, a lot of work, but you'll get into the routine and it'll just become like your best friend. I love bread so much. Davey makes fun of me because I love this so much. Everyone I've taught loves it so much. They can't stop talking about it. I love Charity Lighten so much just because she is the one that like put the information out into the interwebs for me to learn, and my friend learned from her, and like it's just so much fun. It is so delicious. It's healthy for you. It's, as far as white breads go, this is the healthiest it gets. She even has whole wheat recipes and even like savory and sweet things that she adds in. She's amazing. Check her out. But don't forget to check out our kit, you guys. I'm so excited to have something to be able to share with you guys, and I hope that it is something that you find useful in your bread making endeavors. And yeah, thanks again. We love you guys so much. Thanks for your support, and we're so excited to keep sharing the bread with our friends and families around us that we love. And I hope that you guys do it too. I'd love for you to come find me on Instagram, comment, tell me if you've made it, if you have any problems. I'd love to try to troubleshoot with you, because it's true, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get it down, it is so much fun and so rewarding. So thanks again. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.